having this conversation.
Like now, no, okay, let's say we were in 2022. That's just like literally a year ago, because 2024 is like a month
We
old.
just started.
Yeah.
No, but why not? I mean, let's think about it. All of us also have people that we know that they are not cheating. The reverse is said about 8 point something female or so.
4%.
That's very low, and I'm sure men will say, that's also very low. And again, because this is research and there's a certain sample that they use,
It's never really an accurate,
it could be that the sample that they were lucky to have a sample that are not cheating, maybe. But if that's what the research is saying,
then that's what the research
we'll
is
hold on to
saying.
that and
Okay.
see how it reflects.
I
in
know,
our
right?
homes and
I
in our-
know, right?
Yes,
I
on the
know.
streets of Ghana.
Yeah. That's a good one. Thank you. Anyway, I just wanted your thoughts on that. But let's dive into today's conversation, which is really about branding. So let me start with you, Effie. I mean, we hear people talk about branding, and for me, when I hear branding, I'm just really thinking how you present yourself out there.
Yeah.
But really, what is branding, and especially in the context of women? So let's not generalize it to men and everybody else, but really just for women, trying to put their best foot forward.
So in plain language, it's what people think about you when you're not in the room, basically. So when you're not here, Animwaa, what would your colleagues say about you? Oh, I like how Animwaa dresses. It's a type of brand they associate with you. So it's basically what people think about you when you're not around, or say about you when you're not
So
in the
say
room.
about the way you look, or the way you are, or does it
So
include
it's
personality?
basically your thoughts, your point of view, the way you share your thoughts on things. It's branding has to do with a lot of things about us human beings. So that comes together to form a perspective where people decide that, okay, I'm going to call this person rude, I'm going to call this person friendly, I'm going to call this person this or that.
Okay.
So it's basically what people think about you when your name is mentioned or when you are not around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regina, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think she's right. It's basically defining and promoting what you stand for. So what, as a lady, when anybody see you, what do you want them to think about you? When you leave the room or when you enter the room. So in a crowded room, if you entered, what is the perception? How are you perceived? And it's everything about you, how you look, how you speak, how you work. So even your output defines you. Because if you are lazy, then that's your brand. Your brand is a lazy brand, right? If you are fighting, then really your brand is just like somebody's film. My brand is crisis. So it's basically everything about you. But for me, in simple terms, it's what do you want to stand for. So your brand is what you stand for. And so it could be perceptions. But sometimes if you are not careful, because you actually present yourself a certain way, that perception can be your reality. And so all of us then is the consciousness of you. That's why I talk about what do you want to stand for. So you really have to sit back and be sure of yourself and say, this is what I want to be known for. And actively promote that. So you need to promote your brand. Just as Joy FM will promote the Joy FM brand, you must sit down, look at what differentiates you and promote that so that you are distinct. And then everybody then perceives what you stand for. And then hopefully the perception of who you are will be exactly what you want to stand for.
It sounds like a lot of work. I mean, honestly.
Nothing comes easy. Nothing is cheap, right? So it's work, but I think it's intentionality.
Yeah.
It's not something that happens in a day that you
Overnight,
go to
yeah.
sleep. Because it's consistency in doing something. Before I can say that Akosua is lazy, then consistently, Akosua have demonstrated in different occasions and in different situations.
Well, that's if you're being fair.
Yeah.
Because most people judge you the first time. Okay. The thing that worries me, I'm sorry, I'm coming to you with the same question, but the thing that worries me is about branding or about the way that we're putting it, is that it's almost like you're opening up yourself to be judged. So you may see me, I have a show, I'm just lounging, you're not seeing that I'm preparing, and your assumption is that I'm lazy. So then it becomes like it's a bit scary for me, because then you're saying that, okay, I'm trying to sell something and I need somebody to buy it so that I am validated in who I am.
No, I think that's why I talked about consistency, right? And I always say that all of us must be aware that consistency always cuts you a slack.
Yeah.
So, yes, it would be unfair if I just saw you this evening and because of something that you did, I assume that that is who you are. That can happen because you all have unconscious biases.
Yeah.
Where because you've seen somebody behave a certain way and therefore this is who the person is, you assume that because Animwaa is doing the same thing, that's who she is. However, for us to confirm your brand, you need to have been doing something consistently.
Yeah.
And therefore, the difference is that if I say Animwaa is the life of the party, I can tell on 10 or 15 other occasions whenever Animwaa appears at the party
There's
comes to
noise.
life. So it's not this one-off thing that happens. So it is work, but it is taking it gradually and being conscious. I think for me it's a self-awareness and knowing that clearly this is who I want to be. This is how people perceive me. So even if it is different from who you want to be, then actually you have your job cut for you where you begin to work on correcting that.
Okay. Okay, so what are your thoughts?
So, to me, I think branding is mainly building your self-identity in a space where you want to thrive as an individual, especially in the corporate sense. You will have to stand for something. For example, we know Animwaa is very pretty, but what we also know about her is all her statements are factual.
Okay.
It's your brand, it's your identity. So wherever you stand and make a statement, we know this statement is coming from a research background.
Okay. I see what you mean.
So you will have to build that identity in the corporate space in order to thrive. Just as she said, it comes with a lot of consistency because you will have to be known for something. One thing I'm known for in my organization is if I want to do it, regardless, it will be done. So I am mostly not pressed with be here at this time, but the work will be done.
Okay.
So that's my identity.
Okay.
And I hold it in a higher esteem because I've practiced it over a long period of time and I know where to start from and where to end.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. So is branding important? Because the whole thing about branding is perception and it's about how other people see you. Is that really, really a thing that you should think about when you're doing your stuff? I mean, I don't know if you get what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
why should I care? I'm here to do a job. I'm doing the job. I don't care what you think of me as long as the job is done. Is that also branding, or you get what I mean?
Yes.
Like, yeah,
That's branding, but that's very bad branding. I mean, you should care because you're not an island. I think at the bottom of this matter, baseline is you're not an island. And as long as you're working with people, and because you're talking about corporate, you're working in an organization, you may be a team leader, you may be a member of the team, you have to collaborate, you have to support people. So you must care because it's not just about you. It's a bigger good. It's Joy FM winning, and it's not about Animwaa or the next person. So how do you then work with your colleagues to ensure that the vision and purpose of Joy FM is achieved? So you must care, and yes, it's the way people perceive you. But like I said, most of the time, that perception, it comes from what you're doing. So it's your attitude, is the things you say, is the things you don't do, is the things you do, that comes together to let somebody form an impression of you. And so just like she said, she knows her personal brand, and I like it. She's very self-aware.
yeah.
So for me, the job to be done is for you to be self-aware, where you can actually be frank with yourself and say, this is my brand.
So I don't care is a brand.
No.
So that is
I
your
mean,
brand.
I was going
but
to
it's-
say it
no,
in
that
a
is your
more,
brand.
I don't give a,
No,
you know, but like,
I
don't-
get it. That's your brand, but it's a bad one.
Yeah.
Why is it bad?
Because let me go ahead. In the corporate sense, just as you said, must you care? Since you are just Animwaa and you can just walk around, but also remember you are Animwaa of joy. So you do not work in isolation, as she said. You form part of a group. There's something called group identity. The moment you identify yourself as part of a collaborative group, you will have to go in accordance of the tenets of the group. So one, You can be rude. You can be anything you want to be. But when it comes to branding
Representing the
rep-
yeah.
branding in the corporate sense, you will have to stand a high shoulder, so the company will not be in shambles. Because it's not just about you. It's about everything I say about life, about brand, about an individual, about the corporate sense. It comes from here, from the mind. Because what you think or whatever you keep in your mind is a blueprint of how you want your life to be. That being said, if anyone wants to be identified as the rude girl of joy, I don't think in any proper stakeholder meeting anyone will be called.
It depends on how you perceive rude as well, then, isn't it? Is it
You
rude,
see?
assertive, honest? Because sometimes we consider honest rude. You see, the question I'm trying to ask, maybe, which I'm not, is that we're talking in a lot of abstracts, because perception is abstract, and perception is, what you translate my behavior to be. So, for example, Kisiwa is dressed beautifully. I love her dress. It's really nice.
Thank you.
For me, it's really nice. For somebody, they'll say, why does she look, Christian-y and
much.
so forth,
Yeah.
prim and proper. And somebody will say, well, maybe she's actually trying to be sexy, or she's, so then how do you, tally what you want to give out and what will be? Am I making sense?
No, can I?
Yeah, please go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So your first question, that's if branding is important. If it wasn't important, I don't think our parents would identify us in the first place.
Okay.
Because the whole idea is to stand out in a given space. So when you were giving birth to, I'm sure there are a lot of Ifies in this world. But my parents identified me in a way where when my name is being mentioned somewhere, I can stand out. So basically, think of branding like that. And then also to answer the fact that if it's important or not. I mean, there are people walking around on this earth without a brand. But once you identify yourself and you want to stand out in a certain you have to make the conscious effort to stand for something. As Miss Regina said, you have to stand for something. So now your perspectives come to play, your point of views come to play, a lot of things come to play. So it's not just the perception someone has about you, but how are you giving that person that impression to even form a perception about you in
I
the
see
first
what you
place?
did just there. So you called Regina Miss Regina. So suddenly you've created the impression that you're very respectful. Like somebody's listening and like, oh, she called her Miss Regina. Like, oh my God, she's so respectful. So that,
Right.
I'm like, okay, all right, okay, I see
Because
you.
once you decide
And it came
that,
easy because that's her brand.
Yeah,
That's what we are talking about.
Yeah.
It came so easy.
So I
because
can
that's her
imagine
brand.
if you had called, so Reggie sitting over here is like,
Right.
oh, okay.
she's not my
This
mate.
is like yeah.
Right. So once you identify yourself that you want to do something or you want to stand for something, then you're making the conscious effort. So I can meet Miss what's her name?
Kisiwa.
Kisiwa the first time, and then she might not be in a good mood, so she was very rude to me. The next time, it's up to her to change that perspective I have about her. So if her brand is not being a rude person, my perspective will change the next time. So even when I am carrying the news that, oh, Miss Kesiwa is a very rude person, at some point I would have to stop because she has changed. She has proved to me so many times that she's not a rude person.
Okay.
So branding is very, very important.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, Kisiwa, let me start with you. So, how do you put together your personal brand? How do you? Let's say I'm since I'm listening to you, I don't have a brand. I haven't been big on
Oh, great.
identity. I haven't been big on what people think and all of that. How do I start caring?
Good. First, to me, is to find your identity. Okay. Identity can be found from different angles. From one, the way you think, the way you see the world. Just as I said, everything one can do comes from within here. Your mind is the most important asset you have as an individual. After finding that identity,
I mean, that alone is like a topic.
yes, right.
Mind-
Because one thing I don't play with in my life is my mind. It's the most important thing I have. Before you see me, my brain most importantly, would have sold me out before I even come to the room.
Okay.
And I've always been like that. Secondly, you will have to build a routine. I can't overemphasize how important building a routine is. If you want a personal brand, it could be something as little as reading 10 minutes every morning just on how to build yourself as an individual, because you only get better through consistency. I am not that one person who believe in motivational speaker, get up and do it. If it's not the discipline that will keep you up 5 a.m. to go and do what you are supposed to get up and do, it is just word. And I don't believe in that. So after building that identity, you will have to keep up with the routine. After getting into the routine, then you set yourself up to be identified as who you perceive yourself to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, it sounds like a lot of work.
That was all I did to myself.
that was
All I did to myself.
I mean, the first few steps, yeah, but then the setting out of now, how do I translate? So maybe, Regina, you can talk to us about, very briefly about, getting into the identity part, but maybe focus more on how do I translate who I want to be seen as, to the public. And is it important that who you want to be seen as be the same as who you actually are? Or it's okay to have like a public persona of who you're not? Because I know people.
How long can you pretend?
I'm not sure how long you can fake it.
How long?
So maybe you are faking it until it's believable. But if it's a good one, then maybe continue to fake it.
Okay.
If it's not the rude version, but it's a good one, then maybe fake it until it's believable. But for me, how do you translate that? And again, I'm minded that we are talking about branding in the corporate space, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can broaden it out. a
Yeah.
little
So
bit and
I would
just-
think about it in maybe corporate. I'll think about it like 3 different things,
Okay.
and simply pie, right? So I'm looking at your performance, I'm looking at your image,
So
and
pie
your
as in like meat pie.
yeah, like a meat pie, yeah. So Edin Crapper or something.
Yeah.
So performance, your image,
image.
and then your exposure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm saying that because as I was coming, I was just reading and I read something, and I'll just look at it. So if you look at Proverbs 18:16, it says, a man's gift make room for him and brings him before great men,
Yeah.
right? However, without personal branding and development of that gift, we may not see who you are. So you may have it in your mind. You've perceived this thing, this grandiose version of yourself, but it still stays here. You need to begin to get into the space of honing that skill,
Yeah.
whatever I think you see in your mind's eye, because I am not there. So that the environment, your people, your colleagues, your mates, your family, everybody sees that and will benefit from that. And the reason why it's important, still staying on the scripture I read, and I would say, if you want to look at how personal branding helps, Joseph gives us a very visible example.
Okay.
Bible talks about Joseph being in prison and having the talent of interpreting dreams. And it says that he actually helped 2 people also do that.
Yeah.
He had done that in prison. That's not the best place to be. So I'm not sure that he was even building his brand, but he had a skill that he was honing. He had done that so people in that knew what Joseph stood for. At least if you're looking for somebody to help you with dreams, he's the go-to person. However, if you come to Genesis 16, Genesis 41:14, Bible says that when he was called, when Pharaoh had a dream and he was called, he said he bathed and he shaved before. So that is branding himself.
Okay.
So branding for me is your skill and how you look. And that's
Okay.
why I talked about performance, right?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
That makes a
So
lot of
it says he actually, and I think I put it down. I was looking for it to read exactly what the Bible said. He said after he bathed, he shaved and changed his clothes. So this is a prisoner who is going before a king.
For a skill that has already been acknowledged.
Exactly.
Yes.
But still.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, as the scripture says, so your gift will put you before great men. However, you cannot just appear before a great man anyhow.
Yeah.
Just because you have a skill. They won't even look at you. And so, pie for me, be sure that if you are supposed to be speaking on radio, you are good at it. Then we come to your image. And that's all the things we're talking about, the soft skills. Are you rude? How do people perceive you? How nice are you? All those. How are you even dressed? So if you're going to see the king, And depending on the kind of kin that you're seeing, how do you dress to see a kin? You need to be aware of that. So based on the situation, and consistently, you must read the room. So read the room so that you won't get it right all the time. But most times, be sure that, again, you are self-aware. So you're reading the room. So I'm going to meet kin Kisua, I'm going to meet kin Animwaa or Queen. And so you read the room. And then the exposure. People must see you. You can't light a lamp and put it under the lampstand, right? We must see what you do because you stand for something. Your brand is what you stand for. She talked about it in my organization. This is what I'm known for. So people know that she's exposed. So you are not, don't be good and be hiding. Let us see you. It doesn't mean being in people's faces. It means doing the work such that when you are not even there and they said, who cleaned these shutters? They can say, oh, a certain gentleman. So it's your work speaking for you. And being exposed such that you're also helping others. So exposure is helping others, taking extra things, something that is not yours, supporting. Don't just be in one place in the organization and say, I'm supposed to be reading the news and that's all I'm doing. When you know beyond reading the news, you can do other things. So when I think about how you translate all the things she said, for me, it's pie. Know your skill, hone it, do it so well that we know that we are looking for the person to clean this room. Is Regina, that's the best cleaner in Joy FM. And then have the right image. So my attitude is right that, oh, I can't, if I go and call her, she'll have a frown on her face. Please let me sweep her. Even though we know she's the best cleaner.
Her attitude is a bit of...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then also connect with people. So expose yourself. Because the cleaning may elevate me to another thing. Tomorrow I may not be cleaning, I may be using some machines to be cleaning the streets. And that's elevation. So that is how I see the translation.
Okay.
So whether it is home, corporate, whatever you are doing, for me, pie will be my guidance.
Okay, so I'm opening up the discussion so you guys can come
Okay.
in. I mean, if there's anything. So Effie, I mean, Regina has given us the pie formula.
Yeah.
What do you agree one, or I mean, I'm sure you do, but are there aspects of it that you feel like are more or less? And then is there something else that you'd like to add in terms of translating whatever kind of branding that you've decided?
Right. So, first off, I want to establish that beyond corporate branding, like branding yourself in the corporate space, you're also branding yourself to put out there. So, I've met Miss Regina. I know her to be a communications brand expert. But then, people in her office knows her that already. They know that about her already. So, she's talking about exposure. Now I get to meet her because she's been exposed to the show, and then I get to know about her. So then it gives you that leverage over your colleagues you're working with in the office. So I 100% agree with her. Another thing I want to touch on is that building your brand, you have to be conscious about it. You have to, it's basically intentionality.
Yeah.
There are days that you do not want to show up. There are days that you really want to show up to work looking anyhow.
Right.
When I used to work in the corporate space, sometimes I didn't feel like looking my best to the office. But because I was consistent at looking my best, when it got to a point where I wasn't even due for a role as a customer service assistant, I was given that role but I didn't have that qualification to be there. But the way I look, the way I present myself took me there. So every time that you think that, oh, the branding is too much for you, you think about what may come out of it. Because beyond branding really pays. It is what makes people...
It does, yeah.
It really pays. It's what makes people identify you easily. Because as I said initially, there are a lot of AFS out there. Before I started my journey as a coach, I didn't wake up, I didn't go to school and then I came out as a coach. No. Before I started my journey, I identified what I wanted to do. And I said, okay, I want to be a brand coach. I want to be known for a brand coach. It got to a point my friends stopped calling me Ifia. They started calling me brand coach. So I identified myself to the point where people around me understood what I was trying to put out there. It's very important because if you ask the question about being fake or trying to have
Having
like
a public persona,
the
that's
public
different
persona,
too, yeah.
you might get it right in the beginning, but one day you would lash out. It will over you. You will lash out. You will get to a point where you're like, no, I can't do this again. This is not me. But once you are building a brand that is genuinely you, you identify the things that are wrong about you, and then you fix it because you're being intentional about it. Growing up, I used to be that kid who is always angry. Like, when you come and you try me, I would give it to you. But it got to a point I realized that I can't go everywhere with that. So I had to tone down. And because I wanted to have a certain brand, I wanted people to see me in a certain light, I had to tone down. So there are things that will be wrong about you. There are things that you may not even like about yourself. But with time, being intentional, you'll be able to overcome them.
Okay.
Totally agree with them.
Okay.
Yeah. I started a conversation, so they came in.
Oh yeah, that's true. So I've kind of gone around.
Yeah.
So how do you choose what works for you? And the context of what I mean is that there's a certain kind of output that's more attractive than the other.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're in the media, the more outspoken you are, the better. Or, the more you have strong views or you're willing to, then that is better. But then what if you're not actually like that? So how do you then take who you are that maybe does not fit with the image of the corporate space that you have, and kind of merge the two in such a way that you don't lose yourself trying to become something that works in that space? And then also, being effective in basically promoting yourself. Because I think really it's about promoting yourself, isn't it? Like putting yourself out there. So how do you...
I think you role play, right? And we do it all the time. So it's not about being a different person. So I talked about reading the room and knowing the situation. So if you are put in a job that requires you to be a little and over above who you are, you have to learn to be in the role. So if I decide to come and be on radio now and start talking to politicians about national issues and all that, I must learn to engage. And again, it's a decision, it's intentionality. I made the choice to be on radio and do that. So then I must learn to deliver that expectation. Because then otherwise you are failed. Being in the media, if that's what you're supposed to do, you're failed. And really, failure is not an option. It's not about not failing.
No.
It's about pushing. No, so I'm just making the point. So
I wanted to correct.
Yeah.
I think what I'm trying to say is, it's not that you're in the media and you can't talk. When you have to talk, for example, I have a show, I'll talk. So then you'll think that I'm a talkative. But I'm actually not. Maybe I'm an introvert. But now I'm required to appear as though I like to talk when I actually don't.
You're role playing. That's the point I make. You're role playing.
Yeah.
So you have to play the role. So
all the time?
Well, you are stuck with the role.
Actors and actresses have
you have
done
to role play
so many times.
Because there are people, look, there are lots of leaders, corporate leaders,
Wow.
who are actually introverts, but they stand before cameras and they are speaking.
Yeah.
They train, they teach themselves to exude that confidence, to connect with the audience when they stand there, because that's their job. So they've played that role perfectly, but in their closet, they are very calm. They actually are camera shy. But you see them in front of the camera, you think, whoa. And it's learning. It's because, look, we can learn and do everything. Everything is
the reason
possible.
why people like 30 years after you see they're so successful, then they're depressed and stuff? Because like for 30 years, I haven't been who I am. I mean, we've seen, I remember, I think it was Michael J. Fox or so who committed suicide, but he was known as one of the funniest actors in Hollywood. And I'm asking myself, okay, was that a branding thing? Obviously he had to be funny to pay the bills, but at some point being funny became too much. I'm trying to have a conversation about the balance of,
Yeah, for me, I think the balance for me is really, we've all talked about intentionality, being self-aware, and I'm adding the third point of role playing.
Okay.
That I am very clear in my mind. When I go home, I know who I am in the house. When I'm in the office, I know. So that distinction is clear. I am not confused.
Okay.
And I think is that makes it clear. Because
Clarity.
the way I'm supposed to behave, and I'm using the word loosely, in the office is different from when I'm in the house.
Okay.
So it's the situation and what is required. But all of us, we role play, so we are actors. So it's not faking it, but it's making sure that you fit in. And that's also one of the things about branding, fit in properly, because when you get into a space, the people you meet there, they are your audience. They are like your customers.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that you please your customers. Even if you think pleasing is, but why do I have to please people? Well, sorry. Because they are your audience. And so you are there to work with those people and make sure that at least they accept you. And for you to be able to promote yourself, we talked about branding, is promoting yourself, who you want to be, for you to be able to have that credibility, for us to believe that you're an authority on this, you need to begin to work with people. So role play. That would just be my thoughts.
Okay. Do you guys want to add anything before? we
Right.
move
So,
on to the next question?
when you spoke last week. We spoke. Sorry, we spoke about mental health. I think one of the things that we need to understand is that when we go in for jobs, sometimes on social media, I'm sure you've seen this where they'll say that, oh, you should quit your 9 to 5 if you're not happy and all that. You are signing up for something that you know that you are signing up for. In as much as maybe the money may be important, you also have to think about you yourself. So this thing I'm signing up for, because as a business has branches, you, the personality, also have different branches. So the fact that maybe you're a calm person doesn't mean that you be calm for the rest of your life. People grow, people change,
Yeah.
and all that. So you understand who you are. That's why we spoke about clarity, like gaining clarity about who you are. So once you come to that understanding, you know that, okay, I am a media personality. I'm going to sit on shows. I need to talk. I need to banter words with people and all that. But really, really, that's not who I am. So how then do I distinct the two? So that your mental health is well, and then you are okay every time that you are out there. So you when you get the clarity that you need, I think with that you become very okay. So you need clarity to even before you get jobs. It's now that I know that a lot of us get into jobs that we don't really like. But as a human being, I think before you get into any working space, you have to ask yourself a few questions apart from the money. Is this something that you really want to do every day? Is this something that when you wake up and you're going to do, you don't feel like you're being bothered to do it? So you need clarity and understanding before you even venture into anything you want to do.
Okay. Kiswa, so we've talked about appearance, in branding and all of that. How do you approach choosing how you want to appear? Because, for example, I'm looking at the three of you, right? The three of you look very different, right? Very, very different. Dressed differently, exuding different personas. And I'm sure it's intentional. I mean, if you went with the black and white, then there's the colorful pink, which is beautiful. And then there's like I'm a very serious person, kind of look. But I mean, because of the way you guys are speaking, I'm assuming it's intentional. I mean, you all decided that this is how you wanted to look tonight.
Yes.
Exactly. So what informs or how do you pick, because you've picked three different, you know what I mean?
Looks,
so
yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm coming to talk about this is how I want to look. How do you pick the right look for yourself?
Appearance
and
and brand.
yes, yeah.
For appearances and brands, we have all communicated.
Because you look very, very serious.
You will
Wow.
have
It's
to-
not a joke at all. Please, if you are not watching us on Facebook, this is the points that you go on Facebook.
I'm
Please.
almost always like
Join
this.
99 points. I always tell you guys that this show is so much better if you are watching, so that you can understand the situation. Yes, please.
I'm almost always like this.
Okay.
When I identified as who I wanted to be, I realized that wearing heels was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every single time because I work in the development space.
Okay.
It's a very male-dominated space. First of all, you will have to stand out with your brain and also how you look. That being said, you could look anyhow, but you can choose how you look. Most importantly, I chose to be modest.
Okay.
More often than not, you see me in a two-piece suit
Okay.
and a heel,
Okay.
more often than not. So I think, for instance, in my workplace, I mean, to get back to what we said before, the dress, in my workplace, people do not call me by name, they call me by peace and security.
Okay.
All of them. Oh, Kisiwa, what do you think about the Guinea coup? Hey, what is this happening? Kisiwa, I think you are a very violent individual in your head, but here you work on peace and security, you have the wrong portfolio. And I'm like, you know what? This is work. So just to add up to her, but that notwithstanding, you will need a particular thing to stand up for. There is no way you see me dress, quote unquote, revealing
Okay.
at the workplace.
Okay.
It's not because I can't wear, it's because of where I will find myself, because I pick this identity where wherever they call me at a particular point in time, I should be able to show up in a room and do a presentation.
Okay. So that's at the back of your mind. It's the decision
Anytime.
for your Monday to Friday.
Anytime.
Okay.
I should be able to show up well prepared for a presentation on peace and security, regardless.
Okay. So you need to look like peace and security.
Oh my God.
I get it. because
I-
you
I
look
look-
like
I look
peace and-
peaceful.
And you look like peace and security.
I thought you
look
said
like-
that was serious. How is peace serious?
No, it's serious and security. You know, like, all right,
Secured.
stop talking about peace and security. You look like a very serious person comes to talk to us about peace
I
and
had to
security.
learn more about elegance because that's how we thrive in my form of work.
Okay.
So how I sit is very important.
Yeah.
How I talk is very
The
important.
sliding legs.
The sliding legs,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
you talk, how you don't have to rush and talk, because you picking an identity, you will have to know that you can be able to communicate whatever you want to be communicate, still being calm but very
Yeah.
piercing.
Yeah.
You don't have to shout to be loud. I can sit here and talk everything with you about coup, about violence, and about war,
Without
but I'm still being calm
Yeah.
because I learned it. I didn't pick it. Just as she said, growing up, I grew up alone because my sisters were in school. My sisters, like, they are 6 years ahead of me.
Wow.
So it was practically me and my parents, and they were working for money. So it was me, books.
I like that they were working
Yes,
for money.
yes, let's be real. It was me, books, and I'm not someone who really like friendship. It's because of the way I was socialized. So if I am a friend of yours, it's very intentional. That means you will have to learn the way you want to be seen as talking. If you see me talking shabbily, it's for a particular group of people where I'm very comfortable.
Okay.
But in my space, this is how you will hear me talk, even when the situation is escalating to the highest degree.
Okay.
And it was a brand I built for myself. So learn what you want to identify as. If you want to be identified as someone who is always in a flash shoe, even when you are standing in front of ministers, fair enough. But that's not me.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. I get it. And I think the thing that I'm enjoying about the conversation is that listening to you guys, I see how, you've like been intentional. So the persona is coming through, which makes a lot of sense for me. So anyway, let me come to Miss Regina, like if your calls. So for you, I mean, obviously Kisiwa's persona and brand is very different from yours.
Yeah.
So how do you put yours together? What are the things that you're taking
Yeah,
into account
physical.
when you...
For me, it's two things. I dress for success and I dress to impress.
Okay.
So it depends on where I'm going to. So in the professional space, it's basically dressing for success. So if there are rules on how to look, as part of my brand, I am very obedient to rules.
Okay.
So I am
But
not
you can
the
also
person
brand yourself as somebody who does not.
Yeah.
do.
that's if it's good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm not somebody who would deliberately break any rule.
Okay.
So I
Even
use the
if
word
it doesn't
deliberately.
make sense.
Well, but you obey before you complain, right? I would rather do it and tell you why I think it should change.
As
But-
opposed to complaining and
Yeah.
not doing
Yeah,
it.
but I think for me, the right approach is to do this and show why it should change.
Okay.
Right? So I experience it. So when I'm talking, I talk from a point of experience than just assuming that this is what will happen. So that for me, so being professional is important in the corporate space. I look at what gives me confidence, and I'm very comfortable in my skin. So really, I dress to feel comfortable, and I wear heels in between. I like to wear heels not because I'm in Kisiwe space, but I just feel like it gives me a bit of a gait
Elevation.
that
Okay.
I like that. So yes, that's me. And if I'm in a social environment, you dress to impress, because that's a place where you're networking. You want to be different. You want people to see you. You want to stand out. So the two, for me, are very different. Coming here this evening, said we're talking about Brandon, but it's an evening. It's 6 p.m. It's strong and sassy. It's girls, ladies talking about our world. I was formal in the office. I had to change. Right.
Okay.
So I wanted to be smart casual, break it down, because again, we are talking to people that if they are looking at us or watching us, we want them to connect. And for the person watching me now at 7 p.m., they'll let their heads down a bit. So it's how I can connect with the audience.
Okay. I get
So
what
for
you mean.
me, it's that way of thinking. So how you look has to be based on the situation and what makes you comfortable, regardless of whether you are dressing for success or you are dressing to impress. Again, know your body type.
Yeah.
And these are things about branding that every
Are
lady
quite basic.
should know. Just read about it. If you are chubby, if you are oval, if you are short, you don't wear things that goes around you, lines that goes around you. Wear lines
That are
straight.
that are straight, so it elongates you. Depending on the size of your chest, you need to look at how the low cut is or how high it is. Because the higher it is, if the chest is heavy, then you actually are making it even more obvious and maybe prominent, right? So these are basic things that you do. But for me, bottom line, be comfortable in your skin. Look your best all the time. In the corporate,
all the time.
well, yes, I would prefer
All the time.
yes, all the time. But you see, looking your best is not exaggerating.
Yeah.
It is making sure that your dress is properly pressed, your shoe or your slip-on is not dirty, it's clean. No matter how old your hair is, at least it's properly tagged and
It
packed.
doesn't look dirty.
Exactly. So again, it's those things. I think for me, sometimes we begin to think about it in an exaggerated way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no matter how basic it is, you can always look your best.
Yeah. Okay. I get what you mean.
So
Yeah.
for me, those are the things. So any lady listening in the corporate space, please dress for success, because the unconscious biases that everybody has, all of us, we have unconscious biases. You could dress a certain way, somebody will see you and think you have all this time to dress. You might not be serious with your work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
be conscious of those things and know where to have a very good balance.
Yeah.
And if you read your room and you know the organization in which you work, no matter how new you are, sooner than later you begin to pick some of these nuances.
Yeah.
So that then guides you to be self-aware. But if it's in your social networks, like
Yeah.
as well I said, in some cycles you could speak very differently.
Yeah.
If your social networks, they know you, you don't have to prove anything.
Yeah.
Go all out, have fun. So you dress to impress or you dress for success.
Okay.
Yeah.
If yeah.
Right.
To add
Before
before
you-
Ifwa comes,
Okay.
I will say to complement hers, never be underdressed for anybody.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just
That's
never
like just
be
pressure.
never be underdressed. It could be something as low as putting on your what you call it, nail polish,
polish,
just
yeah.
that. Putting on a gloss. If we say never be underdressed, I'm not saying pick up a whole Saint Laurent or Balenciaga or something. No, it could be just using a flat iron on your hair. Just look clean.
Okay.
No, but she's so right. And
But
when I
looking clean and looking underdressed are two different things.
No.
No, she's right. When I talk to
No.
people, when I talk to the young people, I tell them that I prefer to be over in everything than
Yeah.
under.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Let me share a story.
Sometimes you don't want to be seen, so you are under.
that-
Like,
no,
why
but
do you
seen
have to
how?
be over
Then
all the
why are you
time?
building
Let me-
If I
let me
talk-
share
if I
a
talk
story.
about how
Okay,
difficult
we have
it
5
is.
minutes.
If I talked about the
So-
fact that it's difficult, but sometimes you have to push yourself
to
be
show
there,
up.
then don't come.
Yeah.
If
at
you want
all.
to show up in the room,
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about the corporate
Show up.
space.
Yes.
We're not talking about life in general.
Yes.
No, show up like that.
Show up.
Even life in general.
I mean, you are
No,
going
but
to the
in
store. We
corporate, no.
can't dress
If
to
you-
go and buy.
no, but you.
but
you
there's
are
a
in
way
the
you
office.
dress to the store.
Why must
That's-
there be a way? Why can't I go in my nightgown?
Do-
Like it's
do
5
you know-
minutes from
I-
that.
okay, when
Would
the-
you be comfortable if you saw the person that you most admire
Exactly.
in the shop in your nightgown?
The day you
Yes,
don't dress
you
well.
get the real
If you
thing.
will, then
Oh my God,
It's
don't do
so
that.
amazing to meet you. This is my night gown.
Seriously.
And what do you think? What do you think the person will be thinking?
I
of you?
don't care.
That's
The
why the
5
problem
minutes.
is you must care.
The 5 to 7 minute elevator pitch.
Yeah.
When you meet people in, first starts with the way you are
The
dressed.
way you are
Yeah, but
dressed,
all
yeah.
the time.
All the
Yes.
time.
Every
Wow.
time.
You
No,
people are
prefer
like
to
a
be
precious
overdressed
one.
than underdressed.
Be intentional about your dress. I said it could be something as little as wearing a lip gloss. I wear lip gloss to sleep. I perfume myself to sleep. My husband will be like,
Now
bro.
that's extreme.
Like, bro, why are you in the bed with
No,
lips?
my husband will be
Lip
like,
gloss to
It makes you
sleep.
feel good.
No,
My-
we learn something new every day. I'd rather put
My
on my
husband will be like,
Vaseline,
bro.
but not lip gloss to sleep.
like anything I can get, I just put on my lip. I'll just throw on a bonnet. I'll put on a perfume. He's like, yo.
Like, calm down.
He's like, calm
It's
down.
better.
I'm like, you know what? I am training myself because this is not something I learned from infancy.
Yeah.
I pick up a cup. I want to carry that cup. I'll carry up with I'll carry it
You
up with
better
my
have
chest.
the neck to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
if you're
never be-
closing
Let
thoughts,
me
because
tell
we
you
have like
something
3
funny,
minutes.
right? I realized that I'm someone who like go to impromptu events. I can be there and then someone will call me for something. So I started doing sew-ins instead of braiding my hair because like once I have to braid, I have to like always keep it. So I started doing sew-ins and I've been doing sew-ins for the past 6 months. When you take off your weave with the whole cornrow, you look like I'm always like you look like a maid in the
Okay.
house. So I do not want to be caught like that. So I started doing sew-ins. When we're coming here, my assistant to tell you, I was gonna wear a blazer. I was like, isn't it too much? Once I get here, everybody will be like, hey, not all queen. Right. So but anytime I want to go out, I think of where I'm going to first. And then I look at the setting. What kind of outfit fits the place? So sometimes my best place to go is Pinterest. I'll go to Pinterest and I'll start typing casual corporate.
That's a lot of investment.
I'm always on Pinterest. Like yesterday night, I was literally on Pinterest looking for the outfit to
So,
wear.
like regular people, when you're going out, you guys are not thinking, oh, I want to be comfortable. Like, that's not your first thought.
We are not saying don't be
Comfortability
comfortable.
We talked about
there.
being comfortable.
No, like, I mean, but I know, but she's talking
It's
about
there.
Pinterest now.
Yes,
and
you just
somebody
get
is
your
sleeping with
idea.
lip gloss and
Because she's-
perfume.
because-
Like,
It's comfortable.
Of the way I want to be seen.
hey.
So I need
idea.
ideas because I'm not a stylist. I wish I had a stylist because I really wouldn't.
If you're
When it
going
gets
for
to
a
a point where
program.
I can afford a stylist, I am so
You'll
going to
get
pay
a
someone.
stylist,
Yes,
right.
because I can't always be thinking of my
If
clothes
you're
and then
going for
thinking
a
of
program
business.
and they say
But
90s, you have
yes.
to go to Pinterest, look for the 90s style,
Right.
and look at least mimic the style so that you don't look.
When they say 90s in my mind, is the oldest clothes I have in my closet. Whether
Exactly.
it's 90s or 80s or 2000s.
I
this
was
is-
But you
growing
still
in
have
the
to look
90s, so
pink.
I will go and look on Pinterest. If they say
Wow.
cargo, if they say cowboy or something, I will have to go and
The
look.
girlies use Pinterest. That is their secret.
Yeah.
I see.
The
Wow.
girlies.
I know, right? Let me say a big thank you. You guys have been amazing. Kisiwa, Regina, and Efia, thank you guys so much for coming. We
Pleasure.
appreciate that you
Oh
take
my.
time out to be here. And thank you for teaching us. A lot. I've learned a lot. So,
Right.
I mean, from heels to perfume to sleep, and
Oh my
it's it's a lot, but
It's a lot of pressure.
it's a lot of pressure. I know, right? Thank you so much, and thank you to you for staying tuned in. This is Strong and Sassy here on Joy 99.7. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We're on Facebook, so you can always go back and catch any parts of it that you missed. A big thank you to the production team, Mirabelle, Abeku, and the rest of the production. Thank you guys so much. My name's Animwaa Anim-Addo. We'll do this again next week, Wednesday. So next week we're in February. So we're moving into love issues. For those of you who have been texting that we are not talking about love, we are ready for you. Like love in 2024, dear. We are not agreeing to anything at all. So join us. We'll be back next week, Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Stay safe out there.